Alright, hello everybody, and I am just noticing that my mic is not in position. I was too busy getting this review ready, and here we go. Alright, so Halloween Frederika is out. She's available on the JP side as of today, and thanks to Wotv for getting the data up right away. That's fantastic, actually. It helps us out a ton. So we're going to be looking at Halloween Frederika, and a new Earth Elemental Limited slasher type character in the season of slashers. There you go, there's the tie-in to Halloween, besides the fact that she is just a pumpkin colored character. Yeah, Halloween Frederika is now here, and you know what, let's just get right into it. So she also comes to the game with a brand new sword. Let's talk about this sword really quickly, because it's essentially the sword for this character. So you have a couple of different versions. You have a Vitality version. We always not super excited about those. There's an AIM version, which I'm also pretty unexcited about. But thankfully there is an Assault version. Now the Assault version of this attack only gets up to about 158, and that's probably just because of the fact that, you know, no matter what, the sword does add a critical rate of 15 to the character that's using it. And by getting it to a +5, increase critical damage by 20 for 3 turns to self, and increase slash attack by 15 for self as well. So this is basically a strong enough sword without needing a high attack. If it had any higher, it would probably be a little bit scary with the fact that this is already upping chances for criticals, and it's dealing more critical damage for the first 3 turns. Now that's a big thing. So thankfully Halloween Frederika looks to be, you know, very speedy, well movement, static character. So this sword is good for her, as you would expect for a sword that's launching alongside of a character. But this seems good for any speed, well movemental character that is looking to get a damage boost. As a matter of fact, I'm even kind of interested to put this on Noctis just to potentially up his damage. I mean, Engine Blade is good for him, but I'm also curious if this would be good since he has so many movement-based abilities. Maybe. Worth considering. But either way, designed for Halloween Frederika, and a very good sword to get your hands on. So as you can see, here we have Halloween Fred for you to take a look at her stats in a purely Earth-based party with some vision cards, as you can see across here. She's being powered up by Odin, which is probably a good one for determining how good her stats will be. Quick notes, about 5,000 HP, which seems okay. She's a more evadey style character, so I wasn't expecting her to have a ton of HP. We'll get to her Trust Mastery in a second to see what that's adding to it, but here you can see the armor that she has equipped, the black clothes or whatever it was that we got the previous month, I do believe. Around 1200 attack, which is pretty good. Again, if you think about the fact that this character is essentially a critical damage character, this attack is pretty darn fair. I wouldn't say I'm over the moon about it, but I don't feel bad about it either. Looking at her speed, I'm less impressed with this, as a matter of fact. You know, considering that she's already running Odin, and I have a good speed vision card on this party, 94 seems a little slow. Thankfully, she does have good movement because of her ninja sub job, so that's going to kind of even it out a little bit. As for her dexterity as well as luck, are pretty well statted all around, so I'm not too worried about this character's stats. I think they're pretty darn fair, all things considered. Taking a look at resistance, though, you get a better picture of what she is going to be good and not good against. As you can see, Slash is a pretty big weakness for her, so if she does come up against a wind elemental character with slashing capability, or a wind elemental character with punching ability, I can think of 2 of those characters right off the top of my head. Well, this character is going to have a hard time, especially if there's any kind of sure hit or accuracy up. I don't think that this character is going to be very long for this world. Tifa is a pretty common character since she was given away for free, and while newer players may not have her, experienced players, at least on the JP side, seem to be pretty consistent to having this character. But even 2B as well, it poses a really interesting problem for Halloween Fred. So and let's not forget that now on the JP side, we also have Joom, a wind elemental tank who's very good against slash characters. So I'm less than overly enthused about how this showed up. But she does have paralyzed resistance, darkness resistance, a little bit of toad resistance, and fascination or charm resistance as well. So that's great. I mean, I think her status effects resistances are actually really, really good. But I'm so disappointed in where her damage type weakness is, because she's really going to be just she evades something or she probably dies in a wrong matchup. And even then, there's a strong wind tank that will probably shut this character out fairly regularly. Like, Joom is a really common tank on the JP side, and she's a really good tank as a Fest character. So Frederika has a bit of a tough matchup out there that I think is quite plausible to see fairly often. All right, now let's talk about the cutest, and I do mean this. This is the ultimate, you guys. This TMR wins the contest for the cutest TMR ever, and there's no debate. I won't hear it. 264 HP, 10 spirit, 14 critical rate, obviously working well towards Frederika's goals. But her TMR skill is a double cast, 24 TP cost ability that decreases single target resistance by 20 for 2 turns when performing a critical hit. This is really interesting. It's playing on that idea of getting a critical again, which we've seen with Lucio and Cloud, to name a few, or possibly the only ones, because I can't think of anyone off the top of my head, but it doesn't matter. Point is that the critical here is scoring you something extra. And, considering that it has critical and the sword has critical and Fred has critical, you're basically, I think, very, always going to get this TMR to work for you. The only question is always with any physical characters, is Bells going to be a necessity? And we'll get into that as we look at her kit. So talking about Halloween Fred really quickly, let's just go through and talk about, first of all, her sub-jobs. Ninja is the first one, obviously provides some pretty obvious stuff, has the damage ability, decreased chance of being targeted, increased accuracy, has the inflict stop ability, and a couple of damage abilities with some range on it. All of those are very nice and very good and well enough, but Ninja doesn't really have too many overly big power abilities, and one of the things I'm noting is that she doesn't have Ninja's triple hit, so I'm hesitant to say that you should be running it. Scrolling up and talking about Dragoon for a second here, I mean, obviously, as an Earth Elemental character, pairing her with Oberyn and maybe getting some, synergy there. But for the most part, her Dragoon is very unremarkable. She's some of the casting times on the jumps she can't really improve. And she doesn't have what makes Oberyn good, which is homing jumps, where jumps will home in on the enemies. So I'm not convinced that Dragoon is something really that exciting either. And talking about her main job, however, we do have a little bit more here that is excitable. And I do think that running her as her primary fencer job is probably just good enough. I mean, Ninja I would hear a case for, but these two abilities are pretty good. First of all, a movement +1 with a 3, that is a 3-turn increase, as well as a 3-turn increase to critical rate by 25. If you consider all the critical that she's getting from different sources, this just seems like a lock for basically always getting critical attacks. So since that seems to be what her kit is focused around, you probably want to run this ability. And the movement up just works with the sword, getting in closer to the enemies and dealing those criticals faster and getting the bonuses off the sword. Taking a look at the other ability, it is a slight AoE with a 165 modifier that decreases accuracy on the target by 25 for 3 turns. This is a fine ability. I'm not overly enthused about it, but I see its use and I see its merit, and it definitely helps a evade style character. One of the things usually if in a big character you want some support in their kit for it to increase their evasion and decrease the accuracy of enemies. So if you're decreasing multiple enemies' accuracy, that's really good. So that's going to be good for Frederika. Taking a look at her main part of her kit, I'm just going to start with the thing that I think is the biggest which is her job level 25, which I think is kind of a disappointment. It's a support skill that gives pierce and magic resistance by 30% for 3 turns. really, really just meh. I mean, she already had pretty good resistance. This is a lot of resistance, arguably, you know, for the fact of how much she's getting off of a single ability. But she was kind of already good at it, and wind spears is not something I'm concerned about. Neither, I mean, magic more so, but this just wasn't something I was overly concerned with Halloween Frederika, so okay. Alright, taking a look at some of her other abilities, this one is just really important. This is her evasion increased by 25 for 3 turns, and single target resistance by 20. So it protects her, and it gives her more evasion. She's an evasion style character, so this is really good. This is just an ability you always want to run on her, because it's what part of her kit essentially relies upon. Now, taking a look at the rest of her kit, we're going to see a lot more single target stuff, but that's not necessarily bad. So here we have a small damage dealing, but it has an extra 35% crit on it, and it has 7 uses at 14 AP, so this is going to be a pretty good backbone for trying to just get critical hits and set up some of her advantage type abilities to get off it. Probably, I would call this ability just a reliable one for her. Now this one, 35% chance to crit, 170 modifier, and decreases crit rates for targets hit by this. Now this could be a little bit difficult to use because obviously it can hit your own guys and then you're really not doing yourself any benefit. So positioning is going to be very important for this, but the fact that it removes crit rate could be very useful against certain bosses, Porcelain Tower, different enemies, and it could shut down other Halloween Freds and especially Clouds. So that makes this ability really, really strong. Here is, of course, her Cloud style ability where performing a critical hit will restore AP for the unit, and it also gives AoE resistance. Now, the interesting thing here is that we're only getting 10 AP according to the listing here. That's not that's fine. That's good. It definitely isn't bigger than I thought it was going to be, but there we go. So, okay, and her last ability that we are going to look at here. Now, this is a decrease defense by 30 for 3 turns to the target. This ability, however, is the ability that I think is the best in her entire kit, because not only does it decrease defense for the target, not only does it have a 165 modifier for uses, it's a double hit ability and only 24 AP, but it absorbs 30% of the damage done. This could be really good for her. This could be nothing. She doesn't exactly have the highest amount of HP for what we're seeing with a lot of characters nowadays. Like 5,000 is good, but it's a little bit questionable, like whether or not someone could just one-shot her with enough accuracy, and then she's dead, and then the healing doesn't matter. Like, I worry about this ability, you know, potentially not being like just getting shut out. Like it's there and it's really nice to have, and I'm not complaining that she has it. I'm just saying that I wonder how effective this will be when her max HP and some of her resistances seems like she could get KO'd pretty easily. Taking a look at her counter skill, Dragoon and Ninja are basically what you already know, but chance to counter physical damage by 30% off her Fencer skill with a decrease of accuracy for multiple turns to the target is fine. It's good. I mean, it's a 30% chance to happen, and it's decreasing accuracy of the target, but she is getting hit. So again, if she gets hit by a powerful attack and she's dead, then obviously she's not going to be really getting all that advantage from an accuracy decrease after this. So this feels pretty weak. I might even suggest running Dragoon, maybe, for the HP absorb if she does survive. I don't know. It could be a case for either one, but her Fencer one feels a little soft. It's synergistic, but it feels like, you know, again, with that threat of level 120 Tifas, Jooms, and 2Bs out there, this just could be really, really hard countered and shut down. Thankfully, though, her supports are really good. She has the Ninja, of course, jump and move up, as well as Agility and Luck from Ninja, so those two are still really good by today's standards, I think. HP and Jump for Dragoon, which I think here is just completely whatever, because HP is not really going to matter that much, and if you're just going to choose Jump, why not choose the Move and Jump from Ninja, because that's just better. However, her two supports for her main job are probably the only things you're ever going to run on her, so let's just bring them up. First of all, one that gives her a increase to defense penetration by 40 and a evasion increase by 12. What's interesting too is this gets upgraded into her EX, which gives an extra 30% attack, which is a fair, it's a fair amount of attack for this character to get, kind of thing. So there you go. That's just a all-around really good boost for her. Second one that's really good: critical rate up, critical damage up. Critical rate by 15, critical damage by 20. Stacking that with everything that we've mentioned before now, this is just a lot of boosts for her to get a really big critical hit. Lucky roll character kind of just hits it and just kills it. And I really do think that Halloween Fred is a really nice design character who just kind of has, unfortunately, some really big counters in the meta. Joom is a really common character on the JP side. She will probably have more breathing space on the global side, at least for now, but do know that Tifa can still be a pretty big threat to her. So yeah, if she gets unlucky or just doesn't evade, well, it will probably need to do a little bit of testing on it, and I will do that in a future video, but for now, something to note. All right, as for her limit burst, this is the one thing that I think really rounds out her kit super nice. So looking at the range here, single target, large damage, but increases slash resistance penetration by 30 for herself. Looks to be only for the limit burst, but that will make it pretty strong. And a 67% chance to cause blind. This is a good status effect for an evadey style character that's just trying to get around the damage and just do some damage to the enemy. This is good for her. So yeah, I like this ability on her, or this limit burst on her. It's very synergistic and very damage dealing. So overall, I would say that Fred has a really, really, really nicely designed kit that's very synergistic. I think that her sub jobs are a little bit disappointing because while they do add some stuff to her and give her a little bit of options to synergize with other Earth Elemental characters and slashing characters and whatnot, it's just feels a little though a couple, especially at this point, I just feel that Dragoon is so outdated that it really is just providing stats for her, which Brawler maybe would have even been a better choice. As for the counters, they very clearly exist and they are very strong against her. So yeah, that's my opinions on Frederika. So just for the video, to close this video out, we are going to do a single poll on the 9-step because there's a 9-step and we like 9 steps and it gives me a blossom. So this is totally evilly motivated, but we're on the Tonberry screen, so we're going to have a special guest come in and do the poll today. So here you go. Tap the microphone to get it going. And here we go. Happy Halloween, everyone. Hope you're having a happy Halloween long before Halloween is even going. Oh boy, a brown book. That's unfortunate. And it's not even reforming. Oh, okay. Well, it's not the Tonberry's day, I guess. If we get all blues and a yellow, I'm never doing a poll on another one of these review videos, ever, ever, ever. All right, halfway through and nothing's changed, so let's distract ourselves by talking a little bit about what we overall think of this character. So yeah, Frederika, I think, is a strong slasher. She has some really good synergies with characters like Noctis, as well as other Earth Elemental characters. She will find a definitive home, and she is a definite good build. But I feel like right now, oh, it's okay, buddy. I feel like one of the Much stronger investment characters will be Halloween Leela, which I'll be talking about in another video, along with Halloween Raryu, as we look at that character and see what they look like. Poor Tom Berry. So yeah, Halloween Fred, strong character, very synergistic kit, and I can definitely see the strengths with an evasion slashy type character, because we've seen it work really well with Cloud before. But I still question whether or not she just doesn't get shut out of some of the stuff that currently exists on the JP side. Maybe she'll have more room for breathing on the global side. Anyway, that's all for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And from us here, happy Halloween, and hopefully Global gets this next week. So, see you guys. He's waving.